The rain was relentless, a bitter, acidic drizzle that turned the forest floor into a thick, clinging mud. Captain Elias Vance, a human veteran of countless campaigns across the stars, trudged through it, his boots sinking into the soil with every step. He had been sent on a routine reconnaissance mission on Dracaria IV, a world infamous for violent storms and dangerous wildlife. Routine was a relative term here on a planet like this. Routine could end in death faster than a blink. Elias had learned to trust his instincts. He was lean, disciplined, and armed not just with weapons, but with an almost preternatural sense of danger. And today, that sense screamed louder than ever. Through the pounding rain, he saw them. 3 figures, hunched and trembling in the mud. At first, he thought they were creatures native to the planet humanoids of some kind. Perhaps, but the closer he got, the more his experienced eyes realized he was looking at something extraordinary. Dragon women. Real dragon women. Their scales glimmered faintly under the storm, muted but unmistakable, the colors of deep sapphire, emerald, and molten gold. Wings drooped limply at their backs, tails submerged in the thick mud, and their elongated faces bore expressions of utter despair. They were naked, not in the careless way. Some beings might be on a leisure world, but stripped, defenseless, humiliated. Their hands and feet were sunk in the mud, their bodies shaking from the cold and the trauma of whatever had brought them here. Elias's gut tightened, a mix of empathy and the professional instinct to assess danger. He called, voice firm, carrying over the roar of the storm. "I'm a friend. Don't move." The dragon women flinched, pulling closer together. Their eyes sharp, intelligent, and Ancient looked at him with suspicion and fear. Elias took another cautious step, careful to avoid splashing the thick, reddish-brown mud that stuck to everything. "I don't know who did this to you," he said, "but I'm going to get you out of here. I'm human, Captain Elias Vance. I've saved a lot of people. I can save you too." For a moment, no one moved. The rain battered the landscape. The wind shrieked through the jagged cliffs surrounding the valley, and the mud seemed to swallow the scene whole. Then, a strange, almost imperceptible movement caught his eye. One of the dragon women, the one with molten gold scales, was trembling differently. Her tail twitched, and under the mud, an arm rose slowly. Elias froze, not out of fear, but out of sheer focus. He had seen war horrors, alien atrocities, and genetically modified predators, but this was a call for help. A silent signal that said, "We are alive, but barely." He knelt, careful to keep his hands visible. "I won't hurt you," he said softly, though loud enough for them to hear. "I'm going to pull you out of this. One step at a time." The golden-scaled dragon woman's arm lifted higher, revealing a claw-like hand gripping a strange metallic device, a beacon, perhaps, or a trap. Elias's mind raced. In his training, he had learned that survival often hinged on reading the smallest details. That arm could be signaling allies, or it could be a mechanism that would trigger something dangerous. "Easy, easy," he murmured. "Show me your hand. That's all I ask." She hesitated, trembling so violently that the mud around her quivered. Finally, she extended it fully. Elias saw the device, a small, ancient-looking transmitter with markings that suggested intelligent design. He smiled slightly to himself. This wasn't a trap. It was a plea for rescue. "Got it," he said. "I see you, and I'm coming." He moved swiftly, using the tree roots and rocks as leverage to avoid sinking into the mud. He reached the trio and assessed them. Their wings were damaged, their scales scraped raw, and their breathing shallow. Whatever had left them here had meant to kill, or at least abandon them to the storm. Elias looked back at the arm. "You're going to be safe now," he said. "Just hold on." With careful precision, he extended a long, reinforced cable from his pack. Using it as a lifeline, he tied it around the golden dragon woman's torso and, with a combination of brute strength and technique honed through years of battlefield experience, began hauling her out of the mud. Her wings caught the mud like sails, her claws slipped, and for a heart-stopping second, Elias feared he wouldn't make it. But he didn't give up. Humans had a reputation for stubbornness, and Elias embodied it perfectly. Once she was free, he immediately moved to the next two. Sapphire first, then the emerald one. Each was heavier than she looked, their bodies compacted with the strength of dragons, yet undernourished and exhausted. But Elias didn't flinch. He was human, yes, but he was also veteran enough to know that empathy could be a weapon as effective as a rifle. Finally, all three were out. They collapsed onto the solid ground nearby, shivering violently. Elias tore strips from his own uniform to wrap them, cutting them roughly into blankets. "Warmth first, questions later," he muttered. They looked at him, their golden eyes meeting his, a mix of suspicion, gratitude, and disbelief. One of them, Gold Scales, again spoke, her voice surprisingly musical despite exhaustion. "Why? Why help us?" she asked. "We are not your kind." Elias smiled faintly, wiping mud from his cheek. "Does it matter? You're alive. That's enough." There was a pause. The storm seemed to quiet slightly, as if acknowledging his words. Then the golden dragon woman's eyes narrowed, scanning him carefully. You are human. I am Captain Elias Vance, and I don't leave people behind, ever." The dragon women whispered among themselves, a language of clicks, roars, and melodic hisses that Elias couldn't understand. Yet in their tones, he sensed relief and, surprisingly, respect. He set about assessing the beacon device. Using a small multi-tool from his pack, he dismantled it carefully. It wasn't dangerous, just old tech, a distress signal meant to alert their people but abandoned before activation. "Someone didn't want you found," he muttered. The dragon women flinched at his words. The gold-scaled one finally spoke again. They tried to kill us." Elias nodded gravely. "I know, but you're safe now. I'll get you somewhere safe." The trek back to his extraction point wasn't easy. The storm intensified, the mud clinging to everything, trees bending under the wind, and occasional lightning striking dangerously close. Yet Elias led them with unshakable confidence, guiding them over slippery roots and through jagged rocks. His experience in hostile terrain made the difference. Hours later, they reached a clearing where his dropship was waiting, engines roaring, lights cutting through the darkness. The dragon women paused, gazing at it as if it were a miracle. Elias extended a hand. "One at a time," he instructed. "You'll fly with me." No one left behind. They obeyed, climbing aboard awkwardly but without resistance. As the dropship lifted, they peered out over the storm-lashed valley, their eyes widening in awe at the human ingenuity that had saved them. Once inside, Elias set them down on medical mats and began attending to their injuries. Bandages, salves, and warmth are essentials of survival. Yet the dragon women watched him, fascinated by the precision of his movements, the calm authority he radiated, and the quiet strength that seemed to surround him like armor. Finally, the golden-scaled dragon woman spoke once more, her voice soft but commanding. Why do humans care? Elias paused, considering. Because we've learned that strength isn't measured in power or weapons. It's measured in what you protect, and we protect life. Yours, mine, everyone's. That's what makes us human. Her eyes, bright and ancient, studied him. You are remarkable. I have never seen a human act like this. Elias chuckled faintly. We have our moments. The storm outside raged, but inside the dropship, a fragile warmth had taken root. 3 dragon women, once abandoned, once doomed, were now alive because of one human veteran's courage, resilience, an unwavering moral compass. And as the dropship lifted into the stormy sky, Elias knew something profound. In the vast darkness of space, where violence and despair were constants, humanity's capacity for heroism still shone brightest. Asterisk.